I will kind of explain who I am and why I'm up here. My name is Llajaira Salazar. I work at Amazon.com, and I've been working there for about 13 years, so a pretty long time. My work email address is arroyo@amazon.com. That was my original or my maiden last name. My personal uh, email address is just Llajaira Salazar, which is rough. So if you want to screenshot that, totally fine. I'm okay with that. My name is a little hard to say and spell. So a little bit about myself. This is just one of the slides that I actually show to my participants. I am an active facilitator at Amazon. Basically, what that means is I bring in leaders weekly into our corporate offices. So whether that be Tennessee, Virginia, we do Dallas, California, and Seattle now. And we teach them how to be good leaders. So you are in the right hands for this learning agility workshop. I basically teach them how to delegate their time, how to manage, their own calendars, how to prioritize things, how to be agile in their learning, and how to get learning perspectives from all over the place. But a little bit more about my career. I started at Amazon 13 years ago. I was going to school to be an early childhood education teacher, and I was going to school during the day and working at Amazon at night, pushing boxes. I really was just a warehouse worker, and it was supposed to be for a Christmas/summer paycheck to get me through school. I saw that at Amazon, there were a ton of promotion opportunities in different fields like HR, operations, learning. There was some in finance. There's tons, like there's everything you can think of at Amazon. Just imagine it. And I decided to continue my career at Amazon instead of going to school. So I quit school and I furthered my career at Amazon. I became a learning trainer. Basically, all that meant was I put associates through their day one onboarding. I then transitioned. I literally took all of my stuff, threw darts into the air, and applied for a role in Houston, Texas to be a learning coordinator, where I change organizations. If you don't know very much about Amazon, it is one big corporation with a bunch of organizations that are listed under it. So I moved into the middle mile space at Amazon. There, I was able to launch about 26 sort centers, and I was the lead learning coordinator where I taught all the other learning coordinators in North America and Canada. I don't know how I got that job, but it was super fun and awesome. I then transitioned to Phoenix, Arizona, which my first dream role came to me. I was a C2FC program facilitator. It's customer to connection for the fulfillment center. Basically, we brought vice presidents, directors, and software engineers into the fulfillment center. We put them in path. We made them pick boxes. We made them move things so that when they went to their org and made the decisions that they make at a high level, they knew the impact that they were giving or they were producing for associates. I then moved into the AMZL space. I put myself back into management so that I could kind of refresh myself on my set of skills. I was an area manager in a warehouse through all of COVID, which is probably not the best decision for me if I'm being 100% honest. It meant overnight work in a warehouse through COVID. So along with fearing for my life, I feared for many others. Shortly after that, I missed being in the classroom and I got a role as the leadership coach. That's what I am now. And I focus more on L4 and L5. That's our entry level area management level for Amazon. And I do role plays and teach them how to do their role, how to talk to people, how to interact with people, what a good day in their life should look like, and kind of steering them in the right direction. On the slide here at the very bottom, those are just some pictures that were super monumental throughout my career. I was able to see the first ever device truck that rolled out onto the streets of Newark. I was able to see the first car drive into an Amazon building. The little M&M picture is my first ever team that I got to manage as an area manager. So we were M&Ms for Halloween. I was known as if you can't already tell, I'm a Disney adult, but I was known as the Disney person on the team. So I really fought to create different costumes just to build the hype on my team when I was a leader as well. But that's a little bit about me. I am married. My pronouns are she and her. And I met my husband in Houston, Texas, right in the middle of my career, actually, where I think the most pivotal moment in my career was. And he is awesome too. He works from home. He also works for Amazon as a senior program manager. So if anyone has any questions about that, I've got you as well. All right, let's get into the content. We're going to be talking about learning agility, and here are our learning objectives. The first is to discuss and understand the definition of learning agility. to share examples of learning agility in our careers and our daily life, to learn about how learning agility is screened for and used in companies, and to discuss methods for developing our own learning agility. I am going to try to tailor this content to all of y'all as much as possible. Knowing that you're all in an internship is really helpful to me so that I can help you understand what's in an internship versus what happens after your internship, or what does that mean as far as your learning agility. I think internships are a great way to really develop these learning agility skills. So things like that I will incorporate into this content just so that we make it very tailored to all of y'all and y'all get as much out of it as you possibly can. Let's talk about learning agility as a definition. Learning agility is a combination of motivation and skill. Being willing to face new and at times ambiguous situations by taking actions that help you stay engaged, as well as being able to understand quickly the consequences of these actions and determining what to do next in order to continue the process of learning. Now, that was a lot. That was a whole lot. And so I'm going to break this down just a little bit and pull out some of those keywords and break it down for you a little bit. The first one is being willing to face new and at times ambiguous situations, right? A lot of times it's a mind shift or a mental thing that we have to get through when something changes. Our minds are constantly trying to go into the, is this a good change or is this a bad change? Similar to that fight or flight stance that, or freeze stance that we kind of get into. But when change comes to us, or when we're moved from one place to another, or something different is coming our way, we have to understand that if we are willing to do it and we are excited about this new change, things will probably go better for us through that process. The second is being willing to understand quickly the consequences of these actions. I know that at Amazon, and I'm going to speak for Amazon a lot because I've worked with the company for quite a long time, but I do know other companies are very similar, like Walmart and Target are larger Fortune 500 companies. And I do know that when you are working in a company at a high scale, the goal is not to not fail. The goal is to fail sometimes, but learn through those failures. And so it's okay, especially through your internship. And as you get onboarded, hopefully y'all get the roles that you all want and you all apply for. But through that process, right, it's the ability to understand, hey, this is going south or this is not working out right. So how do I adapt and adjust in a timely manner to avoid as much of the risk as I can? But understanding that failure does happen occasionally and keeping that mindset of, yes, I failed, but I'm going to learn about it and do it better next time, or do it better when a new task or goal comes my way. That is where the meat and potatoes are for learning agility. So your motivation, right? How do you feel about this change or whatever you're getting into? And then your skill is that second piece, right? How do you identify very quickly what those consequences are and pivot, but also keep it a learning opportunity? Here are the 5 dimensions of learning agility. The first is change agility. And I'm going to break these down a little bit further for y'all, but I like a good slide that shows you all the things in case you're a note taker. The second is a mental agility. The third is people agility, and then results agility. And then to break that beautiful loop, we have self-awareness. The first, change agility, is being curious and eager to experiment. Being open to whatever that change is coming your way and being open to experiment and see what that looks like for you. Learning from the discomfort of change. I can tell you 100% for a company to keep up to date and know what their customers want and know how to work for their customers, they're going to change, and they're going to change very consistently. And so the first step is to understand that when something is changing, it's not always because the person or your manager or the leader or the CEO of the company isn't thinking about you per se. They're probably thinking about the customer. So how do we make this change work? And even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's not spelled out for us or whatever we need is coming our way, that we learn how to work through that discomfort. I can tell you 100% for a company to keep up to date and know what their customers want and know how to work for their customers, they're going to change, and they're going to change very consistently. And so the first step is to understand that when something is changing, it's not always because the person or your manager or the leader or the CEO of the company isn't thinking about you per se. They're probably thinking about the customer. So how do we make this change work? And even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's not spelled out for us or whatever we need is coming our way, that we learn how to work through that discomfort. And then taking risks when faced with not knowing what to do. We are not expected to know everything. We are not expected to get everything done solo, right? That's why companies have teams. At Amazon, very specifically, we have what we call a two pizza team, which is we actually don't have teams larger than 8 people typically on a team so that everyone can have a voice or a say in the room, but not so many people that your voice isn't necessarily heard. And so two pizza teams are huge in larger companies. It's a Lean Six Sigma terminology. And so in that process, right, we want to make sure that we understand that we can take risks, but lean on our teams in that process. Okay. When you're doing something that you don't know what to do for it, ask questions. Ask people if they've seen this thing or change happening before, what the trends are. A lot of time companies will tend to forget the history of change and then try to make the same change a couple of years later. So lean on people who either have been in the company for a long time or have been in the role for, I would say, more than a year, to ask them, hey, is this change, is this something that's happened before? Is this newer? Have you seen something like it? What are your red flags? Give me the feedback. Ask me all of the things. The second is mental agility. So be creative when thinking of solutions. No company wants you to come in and start making the same decisions that everyone else is. People are hired and internships are brought in so that we can have a fresh perspective on everything that we do. And so when you're going into a role, do not try to just fit into the status quo. It's the easiest way to potentially get promoted, but it's not the easiest way to get things to change and fix cultures and fix things that you're seeing on site. Okay. So I'm just going to be super honest and transparent there. Being adaptable, right? Understanding what you've learned from in your past, but also understanding that the situation is not permanent and that you can work on ways to get in and out of whatever that situation is. When things fail, know how, when, and how to quickly avert. So when things are failing, know what those signs look like, right? If we are, for example, if we are affecting people's productivity, we can start to see those trends, right? We can start to see rates or the amounts that people need to produce an hour to start to drop. That would be our first sign. Or say we are making a change for a process and people are just giving more pushback and they're not actually working on whatever it is we need them to do. Understand what those triggers are or what those red flags would be in your process. That will help you understand when things are going south, when you need to change gears, and when you need to focus on something else or making something better. The next is people agility. I love this one so much because if you are going into the leader network, if you're going to be a leader for any company, you need to know that you are not a leader of robots. You're not a leader of a number. You are a leader of people. And this is a huge thing that we try to express to managers, to leaders in our business, and I'm sure every other company. We need to be relatable, right? We need for people to relate to us. We need to bring our true selves into the workforce, whatever that looks like, right? So you saw in my intro slide, I have all of my Disney stuff up on my intro, and every single area manager that comes into one of my rooms sees that I'm a Disney lover, right? And that's truly authentically me. And so understanding how to relate and how others relate to you is super important. Growing that trust. At Amazon, we have a leadership principle called earn trust, and that's what we're focusing on, right? How do I get this person to buy into Llajaira as a leader? Learn new perspectives. Learning new perspectives comes from having conversations, asking the right kinds of questions, right? If someone says like, I don't like this, and that's their stance, they don't like whatever it is, right? Asking why. Asking open-ended questions so that you understand why they don't like it as well as the fact that they don't like it, right? And then understanding the perspectives could actually give you an insight to how you can make that process better or the improvement better or whatever you're working on better. Utilizing skills of others along with your own to accomplish the goal. I cannot say I've done anything solo here at Amazon or in my entire career. I have always indexed on people who either knew the process better, who did the process better, or has executed the process before me and has been able to teach me and guide me through whatever that learning situation looked like. And so the reason why I have been so successful in my career at Amazon is because I do index on all of the talent that I have in front of me. I operated a team where I had 2 process assistants. Basically, they were in charge of moving people around to the different parts of our business on a day-to-day basis. So we made our numbers. And when I became their leader, I started asking them a ton of questions of how they would do better in certain areas in our role. And I got like a glazed stare look back at me because they had never been asked those questions on how to do things better. They had always been in like that Groundhog's Day of like, this is the number, this is how many people we need to do it, let's go do it. So then when I faced them with the, hey, how can we improve this? Because if I'm being 100% honest, I needed to improve the process, a process that I didn't know in and out. So I utilized my people who did know the process to help me through whatever that change looked like. As long as you do it appropriately and correctly, right? You give them kudos for the work that they do. You give them that visibility, right? So if your site lead or your manager or director asks you like, hey, how did you accomplish this goal? You give them that recognition. That's the appropriate way to do it. So utilizing your people to their strengths. The next is result agility. A lot of times, this is the one that comes up the most. A lot of people are focused on the results of the team, especially if you are in a place like Amazon or a place that has metrics specifically in them. A lot of times, the results orientation kind of over encompasses all of the rest of them. But a result agility is the goal oriented ambition, confidence in delivering results, and practice/competence in the skill. Basically, what that means is when you are result oriented and when you have results agility, you do whatever it takes. You do whatever it takes within your means, of course, obviously keeping people safe, keeping people happy through that process. But that means that you do have to pivot occasionally throughout your shift, or you do have to make decisions on the fly when, say, you don't have a leader around to bounce those ideas off of. Or sometimes you have to make decisions for a new perspective or a new way to do things when things break, right? Having results agility means that even though we have a standard or a baseline of work of how everyone gets the goal accomplished, when things fall apart, I know how to fix it based off of that working backwards process. And I still get the job done in that process. And then self-awareness. Self-reflect often. In order to have full self-awareness, there are multiple parts that you need to know and understand. Document as much as you can for future review. For example, if you are working on a project, and this is huge in your internships, if you are working on a project or a program or something new for an organization, you need to jot down exactly what that journey looks like. And it could be bulleted, it could be an anecdote form, it could be on an Excel sheet, it could be on a Quip or a OneNote. If you don't know what that is, it's a resource that looks kind of like a binder that you can download on your computer. And you want to do this because when you get into your interviews for getting hired into a role, this will help you kind of break down what you did in a very concise manner that has the facts, the data, the information that you all need kind of listed out for you. So if you haven't been recording everything that you're doing, I highly, highly recommend that you start doing that. This will also show you where the gaps or trends are in your projects, in your programs, and in your goals. This will allow you to see some blind spots, along with understand what you don't know, not to be confused with know what you don't know, because there's a lot of times that you're going to go into a process and you don't have all of the information required. A lot of companies will ask the question during interviews is, how do you deal with ambiguity, right? How do you deal when you don't have all of the information? It is truly understanding what you don't know and finding the resources to get you what you don't know. For example, same one I shared a little bit earlier. I had process assistants that knew the process in and out. I was new to the organization, so I didn't know the process. And I didn't know how much of the process I didn't know. I just knew that I didn't know the process. So I indexed on my team to teach me all of the things. It was a lot more than I originally thought, but they did teach me all the things. Get feedback as often and as quickly as possible from different people. So when you are working on projects and programs, asking for what could look like, what areas of opportunities were, what are things that could be done better next time? Those are all kinds of questions that you can have in an informal type debrief when you're kind of collecting that feedback for yourself. Know when to ask for help. It is okay not to know everything, but knowing when to kind of reach out to your direct manager, whoever that may be, the leader of your internship. But when you're reaching out to those people who are overseeing the role that you're having, it's easier to come into that conversation with a full list of things that you have on your plate. Say, for example, you're overworked, right? You have 18 tasks on your to-do list and you can only do 10, right? You only have an 8 to 10 hour workday, all that kind of fun stuff. So bringing that list to your manager and saying like, hey, I have these 15 things, help me prioritize. You only have to do it once. You only have to have that conversation of help me prioritize, let me know what the goals are for the team so that you can start kind of making note and have the same mental state as your leader does. I think that would be a good self-awareness state because a lot of times we tend to prioritize things based off of our own rubrics. So we decide this gets prioritized, this doesn't, and we decide that based off of our feelings, our thoughts, things we technically don't want to do, things that are a little bit of busy work, right? So we tend to prioritize things a little bit differently than say our leaders would. So understanding and knowing that that is okay to ask your leaders to help you prioritize things. I'm not saying every week, I'm not saying every other day, but once or twice so you understand the whys behind the prioritization and the whys behind what needs to get done and doesn't need to get done, that's where it'll be super important.